Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We are going to be talking about Life is Strange. I guess most specifically, talking about what Life is Strange vibes are and some examples of other games, movies, books, whatever, that give us those vibes. So we're going to talk about that, and also at the end, we're going to talk about some fan fiction from Life is Strange. Is pretty good. So yeah, that's kind of our general plan here. I don't think spoilers will be overly touched on, but if you haven't played the Life is Strange games, fair warning, it could come up, I guess. And I guess first, I think it's important to bring up why we're doing this. We've already covered all of the Life is Strange episodes on the podcast previously, and we're doing this because Life is Strange 1, our listeners' March Madness video games bracket. So through March, we ran a bracket with polls on Twitter covering with all the games that we've ever played on the podcast. Anything we've ever covered on it in the bracket. And each week we did rounds of voting and so on. And ultimately, Life is Strange got the win. And so as a quote-unquote reward of the game getting the win, that's kind of where this episode was born out of. So everyone who voted for Life is Strange, congrats. Even more. Here's extra stuff about it. If you want to read more about the March Madness thing we did, you can go to our website, TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. And under articles, I put just a little bit about it, and also there's a copy of the full bracket on there as well, so you can kind of see the road to championship or whatever that Life is Strange had. Throughout the month, there was over 2,000 votes. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun posting them and seeing the back and forth. And probably most fun of all was the championship game. Life is Strange beat out The Last of Us very, very, very narrowly. It was 50.3% to 49.7%. So super close, but Life is Strange was deemed listeners' favorite based on your votes. So that was super fun. And yeah, that's why we're here. So with that, we'll start off with Life is Strange vibes. What are they? So I tried to come up with my own definition, a little bit of what would give me Life is Strange vibes. I think the first thing, of course, would be coming of age. In all the games, you have this figuring out who you are. What am I like? What do I care about? Who's important to me? Figuring out relationships. Who are my friends? Potential significant others. Everything that entails. That's really common in all the games. I think that's pretty defining. Is this coming of age tale? If Life is Strange has been things, I think that's a big one. Coming of age. That's pretty big. Also, I think trauma is pretty related in these two, which isn't necessarily coming of age at all, but like it's a feature in Life is Strange for sure, as trauma shows up quite a bit. And then I think with the first game, of course, you have this time travel element. I think when media has time travel in it, it can feel related to Life is Strange to me now. Even though obviously time travel had been used far, obviously before that, but it, with Life is Strange having kind of a centerpiece in my heart for media and games, time travel, it's like, oh, this mechanism reminds me of Life is Strange, or this is a cool way. So I think time travel, of course, is that. And then from the second game, I think we really get the road trip feel. I think that that's something that Life is Strange 2 did well, is that they did a road trip. Now, the execution of it in real life is a different debate, which we've hashed out over different episodes. But I think that the concept of the road trip is good. I thought it was cool in the game itself, where it was, okay, you were in this area of the United States, and then you pick up with them a few weeks later or a month later or whatever, and they're in a new location and new stuff is going on. I like that. I thought that was cool. I think there's versions where maybe that would have resonated with more people better. So, yeah, I don't know. That really does remind me, though, of Life is Strange, this road trip element. So, those were a couple of the ways I could think of defining Life is Strange vibes. but I went to all of you on Twitter to get your ideas of what gives you Life is Strange vibes. So I've got a good list of responses here that I wanted to go through and see what the rest of you thought about this. Daniel on Twitter said, the number one theme are characters that are relatable to me / to my or yourself in some way, or someone else in your life before or currently. And yeah, I think Daniel's right there. I think that the characters in Life is Strange are very relatable. And that, oh, this person is like me, or I know someone like them. I know for me, that was huge in getting me into the first game, as I really related with Max. Being like an introvert who can be unsure of themselves and stuff like that, it was like, oh, this is like a character for me. I can resonate in the fears that Max has, which I really appreciated. Callum on Twitter said, relatable characters, emotional and gripping story, down-to-earth setting, strong soundtrack. That's great. Again, with relatable characters. Down-to-earth setting, I agree. I think there's something about the peacefulness of the settings in Life is Strange that when I think about what's like, what is, if something had Life is Strange vibes, if it does have this down-to-earth setting, that does do something. And strong soundtrack, totally agree. If you've got a good indie soundtrack, that already probably moves me towards, ooh, that reminds me of Life is Strange, which is cool. Tomorrow Heart on Twitter said, in terms of vibes, then definitely the lighting. I didn't know how much it meant to the overall atmosphere of the game until I played Captain Spirit and immediately realized it wasn't in Before the Storm. Gives the game a Fae-like quality. And this is a great point that I hadn't thought of, so thank you, Tomorrow Heart, for pointing this out. And it's weird, once you said it, it resonated in my head, and I was like, oh yeah. And Tomorrow Heart also posted several screenshots of the lighting in Life is Strange that was fantastic. Once this episode posts, I'll retweet that so you can find it on my timeline. But it's great. It's really good. The lighting, just different things like that. I don't know that I've seen something like that, so I agree. Excellent point. Thomas on Twitter said, some people have already mentioned lighting and music. I think the sedate pacing and moments of calm are important too. I'd also stress the stories that are about powerful emotion bonds, be it love, friendship, or family. Lots of puns and pop culture references as well. Yes, moments of calm is great. I don't know if any other games exist that have this, where you just sit in place, you're not going to have anything happen to you. You just get to kind of enjoy the soundtrack. I know that in the Captain Spirit, being in the treehouse and listening to Sufjan Stevens, I was like, this is perfect. It was like exactly the calm I wanted and needed when I played that game. And in, all the other episodes, they all have their own moments of that. I really, really like that. Sarah on Twitter said, real life issues of any kind, slice of life stories with a dab of sci-fi. That's all I can think of. Yeah. Real life issues, I think, again, that's great. And these just little slice of life stories. It feels to me a lot, and maybe this is a big draw for me in Life is Strange, is it's regular stuff with a touch of the supernatural kind of thing. And so everything feels relatable. I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that happen. That makes sense. This is, I feel like I could know someone in this scenario. Or, it feels like that pretty well. That's great. Nikki on Twitter said, Polaroids, indie music, and coming-of-age stories. Yeah, so again, with coming-of-age, spot on, and the music, definitely. And Polaroids, I think that's great too. I think that Max is forever tied to Polaroid cameras for me as well after this. Felipe on Twitter said, can't say I've ever played a game like it before or since. It's so down to earth and yet unique. Can't think of another game like it, really. Maybe there are better games, better stories, but Life is Strange is just unique, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that fits pretty well with how I feel too. I think I could agree with that sentiment. Sure, there might be better games or better stories, but there's this unique hit that Life is Strange has for me that it most resonates with or whatever is good. Yeah. Solar Punk on Twitter said, small town, murder mystery, teen romance, coming of age story, dark supernatural stuff afoot. Yeah, small town is a good point. A lot of these, obviously the main ones in Arcadia Bay, but even Sean and Daniel on the Move, it felt most Life is Strangey when you were in these more secluded areas that you weren't in, like, you know, New York City or something like that, something bustling, but, you know, just these little off on their own places. And actually, I guess for the fact that they look fantastic too. Just the sceneries, the nature, all of that, that's pretty appealing to me. Teen romance, that's great. Coming of age story, yeah, spot on. Sabrina on Twitter said, a girl taking Polaroids of squirrels, which I thought was funny. Yeah, definitely true. Chaiti on Twitter said, independent, acoustic, emotional music, hard, meaningful choices, and the feels. Definitely. Hard, meaningful choices is really, really good. I think that is an entry point. And I wish I would have put that. I wish I would have put a lot of these things in my description, but choices, I think, is super important. And the feels. Oh, yeah. Life is Strange made me probably feel more than any other game. So, definitely. Alan on Twitter said, I think the core of Life is Strange is bad things happen to good people. Young people fighting in a world against them. An examination of social issues that isn't afraid to take a stance. Most of all, it should make you feel something on a deep level. I think that all comes before the style. Yeah, I think that's great. Social issues are most certainly taken on in these games. Yeah, that they make you feel something on a deep level, that these things matter, that they're connecting social issues and struggles people are facing and showing them through a character and how that all plays out through the game. It's very good. Yeah, I think that's great. Matthew on Twitter said, set the game in autumn, which gives it a sense of melancholy, especially with the low sun streaming in through the classroom windows. Great art style. Yeah, autumn. I really like that point. I think that is something that Life is Strange forever feels with me. Once it's, you know, October or whatever, and the weather kind of turns that way, it does kind of bring me to, ooh, Life is Strange. It feels like this. Jordan on Twitter said, definitely the Blue Butterfly and Polaroids. The soundtrack also plays a key part in the game. Blue Butterfly, definitely. I think when I see the Blue Butterfly anywhere, I think about that. So I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and there's a lot of blue butterflies, and so I just keep catching them, and it makes me go, Life is Strange, Life is Strange, Life is Strange. And my island is named Arcadia Bay, so even more. It just really feels that way. Right on. Vivi on Twitter said, great music and emotional storytelling, falling in love with the characters, and really feeling and caring for them. Also art, like seriously, Sean got me invested in starting my sketchbook. That's awesome, first of all, with starting your sketchbook with Sean's inspiration. I thought that was really cool too, just learning about what Sean's doing through his sketches and getting to enjoy that. I thought that was an enjoyable part in there, emotional storytelling, really feeling and caring for them. Yeah, I think that's true too. I don't know that many games have made me care for characters as much as I care for these ones. That's great. Jordan on Twitter said, down-to-earth characters, even with the chaos going on. Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. And last, Debs on Twitter said, the calming tones, the sketchbook, and the soundtrack. And yeah, again, I think like others have said, sketchbook, it's calm. I think even Max's journal, too. I would go along with that with the sketchbook, is that was cool. I really liked reading Max's journal, hearing her thoughts as to what's gone on, and that's really good stuff. That's great. Thanks for writing in, everyone. So, okay, hopefully this gives a nice filled out image of what Life is Strange vibes are to you and to me. I think a lot of the things people wrote in, I would add them to my description and really fill in parts that I missed out on. And so I think that this is a good framework of Life is Strange vibes. What gives you that? And I guess I would say, for that matter, that what gives you Life is Strange vibes could be different for someone else. I think that's probably worth stating. Just yeah, we're all different. Some things resonate different for other people or whatever. But so those are our Life is Strange vibes. So what I want to do next was give some recommendations of media that gave me Life is Strange vibes, and then afterwards, I've got answers from you guys of what gives you Life is Strange vibes. So for me, we'll start with video games. First video game that really gives me Life is Strange vibes is Night in the Woods. I would say that this game, more than any other game I've played so far, gives me Life is Strange vibes. I think the things that really encompass this for me are the characters and what they're like. Autumn, as I think it was Matthew earlier mentioned, Night in the Woods is set in that time, so it already, like, seasonally feels like Life is Strange. Coming of age, you've got that going on. The music is super good. I love it. Night in the Woods is one of my favorite games for sure, and of all the games I've played so far since playing Life is Strange, this one has felt most like Life is Strange to me, and this is a semi-active pursuit I have. I'd like to find more games or more media that reminds me of Life is Strange, and Night in the Woods is definitely the top game that does, and maybe even the top thing in general. So that's first. Next game I want to bring up is Oxenfree. So Oxenfree, it reminds me of Life is Strange. I think, again, you've got teens, and you've got some supernatural elements and stuff like that. Definitely reminds me of Life is Strange. Good music. It's cool. Then next up is Gone Home. This reminds me of Life is Strange, just with, I think, coming of age, figuring out who you are. There's a lot of storytelling picked up through, like, objects, so it does feel similar to kind of the journal aspect of Life is Strange. So you got that going on. And then the last game that reminds me of Life is Strange is Telltale's Walking Dead, which can seem kind of out there if you haven't played it. I think the big thing is, like, you get very emotionally invested in your characters. There's gut-wrenching choices, that kind of thing. It's good. I think even if you don't like zombies or anything, or like, if you've watched The Walking Dead show or something and you don't like it, I'd still really recommend checking out the Walking Dead game. Because I think it could grip you in a similar way to Life is Strange. So those are the video games I had in mind that remind me of Life is Strange. So from here, we'll move on to a couple TV shows. So the first one is I Am Not Okay With This. This is on Netflix, and it's very good. I really like this. I guess that this is probably the other piece of media that most reminds me of Life is Strange, that gave me the best, like, most Life is Strange vibes. It really feels like it. A lot of, like, the coming of age, teens, all of this stuff. It's cool. I really enjoyed it. The episodes are pretty short. I think they were mostly like 20 minutes to half an hour. So I ended up blasting through this pretty fast. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of Life is Strange. I would characterize it as if you smashed Life is Strange 1 and Life is Strange 2 together and took elements from each of them. That would probably be this show. It's cool, and it's evidently based on a comic by the same person who did Into the Fucking World, which is on Netflix, and I wanted to check the comics out, and Into the Fucking World is really good too. It doesn't remind me as much of Life is Strange, but it's still great. So that, and then also Stranger Things, I think, supernatural, stuff like that. It feels like it. It's got some vibes. It also has, like, Stephen King vibes in 80s and all that stuff, but, so that's not as much Life is Strange, but I think it does give it enough. And for me, being like a big Stephen King fan, I feel like Stranger Things kind of marries two things I like with moving Life is Strange and Stephen King kind of together in some senses to get Stranger Things. So those would be there. For movies, it would be Stand By Me. Really reminds me of Life is Strange. I think specifically with the journey aspect, although Stand By Me, the journey is obviously significantly shorter. But this movie is fantastic. It's about 4 kids walking down the railroad tracks to find a dead body. That's kind of the idea. They're, I think, in their first year of high school or maybe about to go into high school. I forget. But the movie's quite good. And I think the Life is Strange 2 area is where it reminds me a little more. But it's cool. Coming of age. I like that quite a bit. Other movie that really does is The Butterfly Effect. This movie has got like time travel, obviously, as you'd expect by the name. It has time travel, and just if you change one thing, how would it change the rest? So it does feel a lot like the main game. And when photo hopping can come, they've got their own version of that in here. Lots of trauma, coming of age, all of this stuff. I would say actually Butterfly Effect would probably be the maybe third thing that most reminds me of Life is Strange. If Night in the Woods got first place, I'm not okay with this. Butterfly Effect probably comes in third. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think if you like Life is Strange, you would like this. Moving on to books. Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This book is written in like the style of kind of letters, where the main character writes, "Dear friend," and he's writing letters to like an anonymous friend who he kind of recaps what goes on. And so it gets a lot of the coming of age and like feeling like an outsider and kind of figuring stuff out and growing and all of that sort of stuff. It's a cool book. I really enjoyed it. There's also a movie on Netflix with Emma Watson in it. I haven't watched the movie yet, but it's got Emma Watson and Paul Rudd in it, so I'm already at least half interested, for sure. But yeah, it's a good book. And then also Define Normal by Julianne Peters. This is two girls who are kind of unlikely friends that I think they're in maybe 8th grade or 9th grade, and they feel like if you got the origin story of Max and Chloe meeting kind of thing, like one girl's kind of like a brash, loud punk, and then the other one's more like quiet and reserved and that sort of thing, and they both end up in detention together, I think, and so then they start to like form a bond kind of thing. So that reminded me of Life is Strange, and I think I'd found out about that because I was looking for stuff that reminded people of Life is Strange, and whoever posted that, wherever I read it, I concur. It definitely reminded me of Life is Strange. So, yeah, those are a couple of my recommendations of things that reminded me of Life is Strange. Maybe they will for you too. But, yeah, if you have Netflix, highly encourage you to check out I'm Not Okay With This, though. I think that will hit those vibes for sure. Now moving on to other people's thoughts. Nikki on Twitter said, obviously, and I've mentioned it before, I'm not okay with this on Netflix. So, yeah, I agree. Alyssa on Twitter said, Firewatch feels most Life is Strangey to me, despite the different setting. I'm not okay with this, which started recently, comes close as a TV series. So, another affirmation for I'm not okay with this. And Firewatch, I think that's a good call by Alyssa there. I hadn't considered Firewatch as something that reminds me of Life is Strange, but I think it does. Like it being mentioned, like just going through the forest, I think that it really hits the nature aspects. There's definitely emotional hurt and like character stuff going on there that's pretty interesting. So yeah. Daniel on Twitter says, Butterfly Effect and Twin Peaks, obviously, have the most in common. Others are First Tree and Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. Those two are movies, First Tree and Everyone Gone to the Rapture games. The other ones are a movie and TV show. Yes, everyone should watch and play all of them, except for the dog scene in Butterfly Effect 2, and it deserves spoiled. Fast forward 2 minutes at that part. Yeah, I agree. You probably don't need to see that. I didn't like that either. I've never seen Twin Peaks, but my understanding is that it has a heavy influence on the show. It sounds cool. It sounds like a cool show. I think I would like it. I just haven't ended up watching it yet, but yeah, that's great. Thomas on Twitter says, The Edge of 17 is pretty much the story of what if Chloe Price had never met Rachel Amber. So I like that as a selling point. I've never seen this, so I'm intrigued by it a bit more now, for sure. Pogo on Twitter said Dreamfall and the Longest Journey video game saga. So some game recommendations. Chris on Twitter said Alan Wake, Twin Mirror, and Tell Me Why. Twin Mirror and Tell Me Why being two of Don't Nod's upcoming games. Mark on Twitter said Eliza because of the mental health themes and a protagonist in a hoodie. Yeah, I like that. That's great. Paul on Twitter says Night in the Woods, Oxenfree, and Beastars to an extent. So that's cool. They both give some of those games give us similar vibes then. And Matthew on Twitter said Night in the Woods. So got a couple. Hopefully those give you some ideas of stuff you're looking for. I hope if you're looking for more stuff that gives you Life is Strange vibes, that one or two of those could be something that you want to check out. Next, what I wanted to do is look at a couple in-game references that Life is Strange makes to other media. Just since the developers liked these things enough to give them little shout-outs in the game, I thought some of them were worth noting. So, Warren's flash drive. Max writes about this in her journal about some things that were in there. She talks about Doctor Who, The X-Files, Full Metal Alchemist, and Scott Pilgrim. Good stuff. I love the X-Files. I watched all the episodes and enjoyed Scott Pilgrim, although it was a long time ago that I saw it. I haven't watched Doctor Who or Full Metal Alchemist yet, but both sound very great and like things I would enjoy. So that's something. The October Country by Ray Bradbury is the book that Max borrows from Kate. I haven't read this book either, actually, but I have read a couple Bradbury books. I read Fahrenheit 451 and Something Wicked This Way Comes, I think. It's like a horror novel with set during like Halloween. I read that in October, I think last year, or maybe 2 years ago, but I enjoyed that for sure. During the game, Chloe and Max watch Blade Runner, so that's a good shout out. And then through the license plates, there's a lot of little shout outs to different series and stuff like that. So in the license plates, you see X-Files get mentioned, Breaking Bad, Twilight Zone, Broadchurch, and Twin Peaks. So good shout outs there. Seen X-Files, watched all of Breaking Bad. I watched the first season of Broadchurch on Netflix, and that was great. It was super good. That makes me want to watch Doctor Who and just pick up with the newest Doctor since she's in this. I think that would be fantastic. I watched a little bit of Twilight Zone, but not enough to be like a real fan, but I understand it's important for sci-fi history, and Twin Peaks mentioned earlier. So those are some in-game references. Next, what I want to do was share a couple of my favorite fan fictions. I know for me, when I finished playing Life is Strange, I had to have more. When I played it for the first time, it was when Before the Storm had finished coming out. I finished playing Life is Strange by the time the last episode, Hell's Empty, I think, of Before the Storm came out. So for me, Farewell was the first like live Life is Strange thing I've played. And when I finished, I played those 8 episodes, and I was like, I need more Arcadia Bay. Like, I need this in my life. What happened next? Where do Max and Chloe go next? Or what are other ways we could look at this? So since then, I've read a lot of fan fiction. I don't know, probably around 30 or something like that. I've read quite a quite a lot, enough to be obsessed, I would say. So here are 5 of my favorites. Better Than by Israel Blarg, and a description for it is, Chloe has been dead for 5 months, and Max can no longer live with the choice she's made. She's tried to go back, but her powers are gone. Or are they just dormant? Could she trigger them again? With the right motivation, you can only think of one way to find think of one way to find out. A drama thriller with time-traveling mind twisters and tons of Pricefield, inspired by Kothi and his awesome music. This story is absolutely fantastic. Also, Better Than by Kothi is amazing as well. I love that song. I love that inspired this story. That makes me want to listen to that song like 100 times and then read this. Like, it's so great. Kothi is fantastic. If you don't listen to his music, you really, really, really should. Because it feels like Life is Strange, and there are a lot of songs that are about Life is Strange. It's just fucking great. Like, you need it in your life. Second up is Play Crack the Sky by Tomorrow Heart and Mike Keddy. In the end, Max chooses Chloe over everything, leading to the destruction of Arcadia Bay. But they soon realize that fate is not pleased with their defiance. Left with nothing but each other, they must outrun the ever-growing wrath of destiny, while confronting what it truly means to choose the one person over the world. What it means to willingly crack the sky open for the one that you love. This story is fantastic. Yeah, it's so good. It's so great. I was totally hooked when I read this and just needed more. It's such a great story. Ouroboros by Tomorrow Heart as well. Description for this is when Chloe convinces Max to make things right, something strange happens, resulting in a new beginning and a chance at a life together. With seemingly everything fixed, the two are ready to live normal lives. Lots of fluffy adventures of Max and Chloe with friends, with a bit of dealing with things thrown in. And I think that's a great description. This fan fiction is actually still ongoing. This story is still happening, and chapters are being released even today, kind of thing, recently, kind of thing. And yeah, it's super fluffy. It's also huge. This story is enormous. I think last time I saw there was like a word count. They might be bigger than like Lord of the Rings or something like that. Like, it's huge. So if you want to like dive deep into Arcadia Bay, this is like your way there. And it's very, very fluffy for quite a long time. And so if you're looking for like a lot of nice things happening to the characters you enjoy, you will really like this. And it does get crazy as time goes on too. But it's great. I would also say of all Life is Strange like fan fiction that I've read, this one feels most like the game. Like, Tomorrow Heart dropped a lot of good like music references through it, and they resonate, and I'm like, oh yeah, Chloe would listen to that song or like this or that. It's quite good. Really, really like it. Highly recommend this story. Next up is I Like You a Whole Latte by Ali Bally B. And this is an alternative universe. Chloe works at a coffee shop trying to get enough cash together to leave Arcadia Bay and pursue her dreams. However, Max starts working with her and might put a spanner in the works of Chloe's grand plan. So this one's fun. It's just kind of a fun story and a good like what if kind of thing. I think that's something that I like a lot about fan fiction is you can say what if and just turn it into different things with characters you enjoy. This one's a pretty fun version. And then lastly is All That Remains by Hot Dog Man. It says, pure price-field fluff for those who wished for more closure from their ending, setting two girls on a cliff, watching a bay have a very bad day. And this one is definitely the fluffiest Life is Strange thing I've ever read. I read this. This might have been the first fan fiction that I read after finishing the game, and it was what I needed for sure at the time because I was feeling low. Just with how the game had impacted me, and it was, rough, and all that. So it was really good to see, okay, something nice can happen to them for me. So I really enjoyed that. If you're feeling low, this might be a good fic for you. So some people wrote in. Daniel on Twitter said, from the ones I've seen, Defy Fate and Road Not Taken have the most interesting all-around concepts and ideas. They're just a pleasure to read. I do hope that Road Not Taken is finished at some point. I do understand it sure as hell takes a while. Anyways, I'd say those two. Yeah, no, that's for sure. I haven't actually read either of those, I don't think so. I might have to add those to my reading list. Stretch on Twitter said, any Life is Strange fic that Magatrat wrote. Right now, my two faves are To the Lighthouse by Gin Flame Rebellion and Castles in the Air by Scorpion Queen. So, cool. Nikki on Twitter said, Better Than is like the best. Also, I hope to continue writing mine. It's a road trip about Steph and Max. Chris on Twitter said, my favorite ones are my own. He's got some fics going that have a MCU vibe to them, which is cool. And then Thoughts from Player One on Twitter wrote in and said, or what are your least favorite ones? Which I thought was funny. And can only just imagine like the worst stuff ever. Just, imagining what they could be. Because I imagine there are some that are not great or super offensive or whatever. So, that's great. So, last to close out, I wanted to give you just a few, recommendations if you want more Life is Strange. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we've covered all the Life is Strange episodes on the podcast. If you'd like to relive those, go back and listen. That would be cool. Also, check out Games and Groceries podcast. Recently, a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I went on their show, and we talked about our wish list for Life is Strange 3. That was a lot of fun. They've also covered all the episodes of Life is Strange 2 as those kind of came out. They've got some videos about Life is Strange, and I believe they did Let's Plays of all the Life is Strange games in chronological order. So they've got a lot of Life is Strange stuff if you'd like to check it out. And then lastly, Thoughts from Player One is a podcast I've found recently who do story-driven games just like us, which is a lot of fun. And I've been listening to their Life is Strange series right now. It's been super enjoyable. They also do hit up Before the Storm and Life is Strange 2 as well. I haven't gotten to those yet, but I have been making my way through the first game of theirs, and it's been super enjoyable. So, if you want other people's takes on these games, there are definitely more out there, and I really enjoy finding people personally. I personally really enjoy finding people who enjoy Life is Strange and just getting their different takes on it and what they liked about it, something that stood out to them. Something I've been really surprised by in a good way as I played these games is just how different things stick out to different people, how different things matter for different people, how different emotional points resonate for different people, or that kind of stuff. That's been super enjoyable getting to see and experience. Definitely check that stuff out. And that's the episode. I hope that you enjoyed your time here and got maybe some ideas of some media you want to check out, or I don't know, if it makes you want to replay Life is Strange or something, that would be cool. Let us know. Let me know. That'd be awesome. That's the episode. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can do that on Twitter at StoryEverPod. You could see all our previous episodes at our website, TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. If you'd like to financially support the podcast, you can do that by going to patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. If you'd like to give as little as $1 per month, that will give you access to bonus episodes that are topical in nature. So we've done things like our favorite games from childhood or ranking the Life is Strange episodes. Those are on there. So if you'd like to do that, go for it. If you'd like to support us, but you can't financially, that's totally cool. One way you could do that is by going to podchaser.com or wherever else you get your podcast and just rating and reviewing the podcast. This would help, get the word out there more about our show so that we could share in these story-driven games together with more of us. Adding more people to the community is always good. So if you'd like to do that, we'd super appreciate that. And I guess that's all. So we'll see you next time.